What's goody? Hey man, so today we are back again with another video for y'all, and we are going to be reacting to this Bleacher Report article, which is one major question for every team after the 2026 NBA offseason. I have a lot of questions for a lot of teams, but I'm interested to see kind of what Bleacher Report has to say, what their questions are, whether we agree or disagree, or whether, I don't know. Bleacher Report tends to do articles like this, and a lot of times I tend to think things are a little rage bait, you know what I mean? Trying to get, views and everything like that. I don't blame you, because if you've ever been a sports writer, sports journalist, anything like that, you know it's difficult to get views over and over again. So an article like this is a good conversation starter. We're deep into the all season, so I'm looking forward to this. So business in the NBA world is mostly complete, yes, although questions remain for every team. How does shots get up for a star-studded Philadelphia team? Did the Charlotte Hornets make the right choice? That's a great question. Okay, so those are some of the questions I'm assuming. But first, can Jalen Johnson be the best player on the championship team? Yeah. I definitely think this is the biggest question for the Hawks, right? Where you got more defense this season, and if Lou Dort has a good shooting season, then that helps you out a ton. And you have a decent center core. While I don't think it's the best in the league or anything like that, you do have three centers who you trust to come into a game that are real rotational players. And that's a good thing. There are much worse center cores in the league than theirs. Your guard rotation's not the greatest, not the deepest or anything like that, but I mean, it's not terrible either, especially with Kingston Flemings, the rookie, in there. So yeah, I do think the biggest question for the Hawks will be, can Jalen Johnson be the best player on a championship team? And I'm a person that's been low on the Hawks, been doubting the Hawks a little bit, but Jalen Johnson having a breakout would be something that would get me to be like, oh yeah, that's why I didn't have them as a playoff team while some other guys did. It would be because of a Jalen Johnson breakout. And that's very possible. So, you know, that's a question that we'll see. Boston Celtics, is the title window already closed? Yeah, this is a good question. I don't know. I feel like this isn't the worst question. I feel like I probably would have just had a question about something like how on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad do you regret the Jaylen Brown trade, right? Because I mean, I guess you say, hold on. 1 second. That was the baby monitor for my daughter. Gotta turn that off. You probably can hear the static. Anyways, because, right, you're looking at this and you're probably going to say, well, they aren't going to regret it or feel comfortable with it until they've really played some games, until we kind of see how the season pans out, and that's probably true. But when I look at what the Boston Celtics have done, man, the only thing that comes to my head right after that is, sure, this roster won't be bad, and I don't think the floor or the ceiling of this roster is very low. I think it'll be a very similar team to last year's, but how much lower did you make the overall ceiling of your team, the long-term ceiling of your team, by trading Jaylen Brown? How much worse did you make your long-term future by trading Jaylen Brown? I think that's the thing. And is the title window already closed? I would say no, because you still have Tatum, but it's definitely closed for now. Like, it's definitely closed for the foreseeable future. But hey, I mean, I could be wrong. They could win the championship this year after what the Knicks just did. Brooklyn Nets, time to become buyers. I mean, I guess, but my thing is, what do they really use to buy? You know what I mean? Because, like, yeah, like I said, the Nets are in a weird position, and I would argue they kind of already did start to buy, bringing in an MPJ, bringing in a Julius Randle and stuff like that. But, I mean, yeah, Brooklyn has to be competitive, especially with the new lottery rules and lottery odds and everything like that. But, yeah, the Rockets have the right to swap their first-round pick, so it's like no matter how good or bad the Nets are going to be, the Rockets are just going to choose the better pick, so it doesn't really matter. So I guess, yeah, the best thing for them to do would be to be competitive. But what do you mean by buy? You know what I mean? Because what are you going to do to go buy? Are you going to go buy high on some older players? Are you going to go take some bad contracts? Are you going to, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're going to do a traditional tank. I think by buying, a team like the Brooklyn Nets or the Bleacher Report writers mean for the Brooklyn Nets to actually go out there and try to trade for somebody, maybe, whether their value's low or high or whatever else. My thing is like, okay, if you're going to do that, who are you going to trade? Are you going to trade a Randall or an MPJ, because you're not going to trade any of these young guys you really care about building? And then at that point, is it really even buying? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't think the Nets are going to become buyers more than they already have. Because, like, what are they buying in on? Who are they buying in on? And what are they using to buy in? You know what I mean? If you're going to buy something, you got to have what? Money to buy it. Charlotte Hornets, was this the best time to trade LaMelo? Yeah, 100%, man. Best question for sure. And I would answer no. Maybe this season LaMelo gets hurt or just doesn't have as good of a season and I'm proven wrong. Maybe the Hornets look great this season. Maybe they did the right thing and they sold high and they did what everyone's saying they did and they sold high on LaMelo and that was a smart decision for them. Maybe I'm right. I mean, maybe that's true, maybe that's right, but I don't know, man. I definitely think trading LaMelo was the wrong decision. I think it'll be very, very tough for them to replicate what LaMelo Ball does for them. And I do think just the ceiling of the Charlotte Hornets got worse after last year where they were a play-in team, and this year I really wanted to see them kind of keep that core together. yeah, I just really wanted to see them keep that core together and see, could you really become a real playoff team? Could you become a team that scares some of these teams out east? Could you become a team that can beat some of the top seeds out east on a random night or on any given night? You know what I mean? That's what I kind of wanted to see with that Hornets team, because that's the direction I think that Hornets team was going. And now I think your timeline's a little more confused, and the trade just wasn't. I didn't like the LaMelo Ball trade much at all. All right, so next, Chicago Bulls. Is the franchise finally right on track? I was literally just at the barbershop and I was talking to a guy who's a Bulls fan, and we were talking about how this franchise does seem to finally be right on track, right? He was talking about how one of the things that he hated, or one of the things that really for him sucked as a Bulls fan, was just the lack of making moves and just the lack of aggression, and just kind of how it kind of seemed tough for the Bulls to really get a super high lottery pick or to get really an A1 type of guy in the draft, because they were always just a little too good to get there. And I hope my daughter's okay. She's with her mom, and everything like that. But now I do love the Caleb Wilson thing. I love the direction the Bulls are going in. And while they did wait too late for their rebuild, and now we'll see how these lottery odds and the changing of the lottery odds punishes them, I still like the direction the Bulls are going. I think the franchise, hopefully, is finally right on track. Cleveland Cavaliers, yeah, obviously the biggest question with them, assuming they sign James Harden back, is who starts a small forward, right? They didn't get LeBron James. They lost Dean Wade, Keon Ellis, Larry Nance Jr., so they lost a lot of depth, especially defensively. And then obviously they didn't get the greatest small forward of all time in LeBron James. It'll probably be between these two guys. I mean, they have they mentioned Sam Morrell, who I don't think will really start in that spot unless there's like injuries here, because I do expect some progression from Jalen Tyson, and I do think Jalen Tyson will be the guy who will take that role. But yeah, that's definitely the biggest question for the Cavs, who are, I mean, hey, could be worse questions. Dallas Mavericks, keeping Kyrie Irving a mistake. Yeah, I feel like this is probably the biggest question for the Mavs. They don't have a ton of other questions or anything like that, right? Because, I mean, since the Luka trade, there's not a lot that they've done. They traded AD, but you know what I mean? Like, there's just not a lot that they've done. So, yeah, is keeping Kyrie Irving a mistake? I don't think so. I think Kyrie Irving and Cooper Flag would be a great duo. I absolutely don't think it's a mistake by any means. I do understand the camp that's kind of like, oh, Kyrie Irving's older, coming off an ACL injury. Do you trade him and try to get some more pieces or picks that could kind of fit more in the Cooper Flag era? For sure. I understand the logic. I just wouldn't do it. Denver Nuggets, will financial problems doom the franchise? I think the answer to this is unequivocally yes. I think they have already started to doom this franchise when you see that they're probably not going to be able to bring Peyton Watson back, and before giving Watson a new deal. Will Kroenke, don't like him, but whatever, as a Rams fan. I just don't think they're going to get him back, and if they do, I mean, that's good, but the problems are still financial, right? You're paying Christian Brown a lot of money. You're paying these two guys and Jokic and Murray a lot of money, and then you're going to be adding Peyton Watson for $15, $20+ million a year. You already traded Michael Porter Jr. with a pick to get off of that contract, and then Cam Johnson came in and just wasn't as good as Michael Porter Jr. was, so that's not great. So I think the answer to this is unequivocally yes, mostly because I think this has already started to happen. Detroit Pistons, who's the secondary creator? Yeah, they've had the same question for the last 2 seasons, I feel like. They did a good job to bring in shooting in this offseason, right? Like, I don't hate any of their additions. They do have John Collins, Isaiah Joe. They still have Duncan Robinson. They have a Chaz Lanier who has shooting upside. They have shooters. They did bring in a bunch of guys who were all 40+% three-point shooters last year, so that's not a bad thing, don't get me wrong. But the thing for me is, like, yeah, what's all that shooting going to do when the only person on the whole roster who could ever even potentially pass in the ball is Cade Cunningham? Ever. I just don't love that. I feel like you should try to get some other creation next to Cade. You shouldn't just have it be, okay, Cade starts everything for us, and then if he's able to find a guy on the catch and shoot or a Jalen Duren on a roll, then yay, we scored points other than Cade. But yeah, I just don't love it. I think everybody's been asking the question of who is going to be the secondary creator next to Cade for quite a while now. And it was definitely an interesting decision for the Pistons to have not really addressed that so far. Next, the Golden State Warriors. Can they afford to wait for Jimmy Butler? Yeah, I think, again, this is one of those questions that I think I already know the answer to. It's no, they can't. And I feel like the question is, will they wait for Jimmy Butler? Will they just stand pat and say, hey, we're good with this aging core. We're really just trying to not care too much about them. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. If they can bring us some wins, cool. But we know they're gonna sell out seats, and that's really all we care about. Because we're really trying to figure out the next era of basketball anyway. I think that's the better question for the Warriors is, will they wait for Jimmy Butler? Because I think they can't afford to wait for Jimmy Butler, but I think they're going to, and I think that's a very stupid decision. Houston Rockets, is a point guard upgrade needed? Yeah, this probably is the biggest question for the Rockets. I have a couple other ones. I think the Rockets are one of those teams that while they are going to be a very good team, I still have a lot of questions for them, right? Is a point guard upgrade needed is definitely one of them, right? Where you have Fred VanVleet at 32 coming off a torn ACL after missing a full season, and then Reed Shepherd, who is more of a combo guard for sure, and also just didn't look like necessarily a number 3 overall pick last season, at least for the most part, even though I believe in him. I believe in him to be a good player. But I mean, they have Bruce Thornton Jr., who showed some things in summer league, and he's a rookie, but he's an older rookie. I think he'll come in and probably be able to play a little bit. But I would definitely have questions about Sengun. I definitely have questions about, will Amin Thompson take another leap? Will Amin Thompson ever take a shooting leap? Will he ever take an offensive leap? Period. So I definitely have same thing for Jabari Smith. Will he take another leap? Can he get to another step on either side of the ball? But yeah, I definitely have questions for this Rockets team, and I don't think the point guard is the only one, but I do think it's maybe the main one. I don't know. I have a lot of questions about Sengun, and can he really be is he really the starting center that fits best with this team? So I don't know. I have some other questions for the Rockets. Anyways, Indiana Pacers. Yeah, this is definitely the biggest one. Will Tyrese Halliburton return to his former self? Because, I mean, if he does, I think we should all expect this team to make the Eastern Conference Finals at the very least, based on the way we saw them last time. When he was fully healthy, especially with the Zubac, who should be, like they say, an upgrade overall over Miles Turner. Yeah, definitely the biggest question for the Pacers. And if he does, man, that would be crazy. But obviously, not expecting that. That would be extremely impressive. LA Clippers, what is the plan exactly? Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal question, especially as the Kawhi Leonard trade hasn't gone through yet, right? I think the big thing for the Clippers is they can't really plan. I feel like you really are kind of stuck until you know what's 100% going to happen with the Kawhi thing, because are you going to lose draft picks? Are you going to get Kawhi back? Are you going to have a Brandon Ingram or a Grady Dick instead? I feel like you can't really plan for anything until you know what's up with that situation. But even with that situation over, let's say you get Kawhi back, that's a whole headache. So let's say you lose Kawhi. Then yeah, what is the plan then? Are you going to be as competitive as you can be and try to see what you can get out of Brandon Ingram and Darius Garland? Are you going to see what you can get out of them and then sell high on them and go into full rebuild? Like, what are the options? Because, you know what I mean? They have a couple of young guys, you know what I mean? They have Keaton Wagler. They have Yannick Conan Niederhauser, but they don't have, they just don't have a lot there. So I have the same question. 100%, what is the plan? 14, the Los Angeles Lakers, are they locked into an average roster? I think the better question is, who is their starting four? Because I don't know that they're locked into this roster, right? I mean, Austin Reeves is going to be making some money. Walker Kessler is going to be making some money. You traded a lot for Walker Kessler, but I don't necessarily hate that trade because I think Walker Kessler is a guy that can be a perfect type of center around Luka Doncic, right? Where he's not going to need the ball a ton, but is still going to be super impactful, especially on the defensive end and with catching lobs and everything like that. If he's able to just be a good lob catching, rim running, screen setting, defending big, I think that'll be maybe not well worth what they gave up, because they gave up a good amount, but I don't think that'll be the worst trade in the world. And then, I don't think the roster is that bad because you have this guy, number 77. I think the better question is who's going to start at the 4, because right now I feel like the only guy they really have that can even start at the 4 is Mamu. And then after that, who is it? Is it like, I don't know, Jared Vanderbilt? Who started at the 4 last year for them? Jake LaRavia? Yeah. Who's going to start at the 4? That would be my biggest question for them. The Memphis Grizzlies, is this a sneaky play-in team? Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this, and I think for this team to be a sneaky play-in team, Cam Boozer probably has to be like runaway rookie of the year. Probably bro, this sounds crazy, but maybe borderline all-star. I feel like if this is going to be a play-in team, Cam Boozer has to come out of the gates as one of an elite rookie, has to come out of the gates and has to do phenomenal things. And I'm not doubting him. I'm a Cam Boozer believer 100%. I just don't really believe this is going to be a play-in team. Sneaky play-in team, I could for sure see them, competing for a play-in seed maybe around the trade deadline. But I don't think this will be a team that actually finishes as a play-in team. I just don't think they have enough talent. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw this team as the 14 seed out west. But I also wouldn't be surprised if I saw them as the 11 seed. I don't know. They're a really interesting team to me. Yeah, easily the biggest question for the Miami Heat. Honestly, you could ask this, or is there just enough guard play in general? Is there just enough ball handling, creation, playmaking in general? But is there enough shooting? Is there enough playmaking? Those are, I think, the two things that this team is lacking the most. But definitely, the shooting. The only shooters you really have on the roster are Tim Hardaway Jr., that's kind of it. You know what I mean? You don't have a ton of shooters on the roster. You don't have a ton of depth when it comes to shooting either, so it's just not great. They were already not a great shooting team, and then now you go out there and you trade one of your better three-point shooters in Tyler Hero for Giannis Antetokounmpo, who we know is not a three-point shooter in any way, shape, or form, and you lost Norman Powell, and your guards this year are not going to be able to put up the same scoring punch or shooting punch that Norman Powell was, unless Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to come out there and shoot a high volume of threes at an efficient clip, which, I mean, he's capable of it, but doesn't happen often. Milwaukee Bucks, try to win now or develop talent. I feel like y'all probably just had to come up with a question for Milwaukee, because what do you mean try to win now? You could try as hard as you want to, and I promise you, you're not winning now. Minnesota Timberwolves, who starts at power forward? Yeah, who starts at the 4/ who starts at the 3, I think is a big thing, right? Because you know Jaden McDaniels is going to play one of those two positions. I think the big question is who is going to play alongside him. I am a guy who I don't want to spoil too much, but I do have a video coming out where it's going to be like breakout players, and I am a guy who thinks that Terrence Shannon Jr. can take that starting 3 spot and or one of those starting spots and move Ayo Dosunmu to the bench, not necessarily because he'll just be like 100% better or a definitively better player, but because I think he could fit there. I think he could provide some things that the Timberwolves need. And with, I mean, they're not necessarily a big size difference, but I just think Terrence Shannon Jr. is a guy that's going to make a real impact on this rotation for this Timberwolves team. But yeah, the biggest question is definitely how are they going to replace those Naz Reid minutes, right? How are they going to replace Naz Reid and Julius Randle in the same offseason? Because those are two guys that played a lot of 4/ Naz Reid playing the backup 5. Those are two guys that played a lot of front court minutes for you, and it is going to be tough to replace both of them in the same offseason. The good thing is you have Rudy Gobert on the back end and Jaden McDaniels, who's a lanky defender that's willing to fight against anyone. So, I mean, I think they'll be okay, but it is definitely a big question. New Orleans, yeah, this is hilarious. And using DeAndre Jordan as the picture this is absolutely hilarious. Yeah, I don't think they do know the offseason started. I don't think they know that basketball is being played. I don't think that they know that the point of basketball is to make the best team you possibly can so eventually win a championship. I don't think the New Orleans Pelicans know anything right now. New York Knicks, will they regret not going to the second apron? Yeah, this is a good question, right? Will they regret losing a Mitchell Robinson? Will they regret losing a Mitchell Robinson and everything like that? Well, really, just Mitchell Robinson. Just to get under the second apron, will they regret losing that center depth, that center rotation? And I do think it's something they can end up regretting, but at the same time, like, they won a championship that not a lot of people were expecting them to win, like, throughout the season at all. Even when the playoffs started, even as they got hot throughout the playoffs, we were going into the finals and most of us were thinking it was the Spurs who won it without even watching the finals, and they went in there and packed the Spurs up in 5 games, right? So, I mean, sure, you could say they could end up regretting not going into the second apron, but I think after the championship they just had, there's nothing the Knicks fans are going to regret for a bit of time coming. OKC Thunder, can Jalen Williams bounce back? Yeah, this is definitely a real question for them. I think there's other questions for them, like, can Chet Holmgren take another step? Can any of their young guys contribute and be real role players, real rotational players for this team, especially those guys that are rookie or second-year players who we haven't seen a lot yet? But yeah, absolutely, absolutely. J-Dub is a guy that there are questions around, right? He's been injured 1,000% of the time. He was not 1,000% of the time, but he's been injured 1,000%. He missed a whole bunch of time in the playoffs and just throughout the regular season of last year. And the last time we saw him fully healthy, as they mentioned here, he was an All-NBA and All-Defensive Team guy. He was the guy that scored a 40-point game in the NBA Finals. So I mean, yeah, that is a big question, because if he's going to get back to being that 40-point per game or that 40-point game NBA Final scorer, that is something the Thunder are going to need. And if he's not going to get back to being that changes a lot for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Orlando Magic, is a major shakeup needed? Definitely the biggest question, and I think the answer for this is probably yes. But the thing with the Magic is just like, how do you do it, right? Because you have so much tied up into these 4 players, and like, how much value are you really going to get for any one of these 4 players, right? It's just tough, right? Because like, is there a major shakeup needed? I think there is, but then the thing is, this is always going to be a team that's good enough to be like a playoff contender, so that's going to make it hard for you to really go into a true rebuild, especially after the Magic throughout the 2010s were one of the laughingstocks of the NBA post Dwight Howard. Philadelphia 76ers, are there too many mouths to feed? 1,000% the biggest question. You could also be like, where's the depth, or is the depth going to be a thing? But yeah, I think this is the question that everyone's asking about the 76ers right now. You've got Maxey, you've got LeBron, you've got Embiid, and you've got Jaylen Brown. Those are all guys who are perennial scorers in this league, or have been perennial scorers in this league. Those are all guys who to score, you need the ball in your hands, right? So those are all guys who have needed the ball in their hands, who have wanted the ball in their hands, who have enjoyed the ball in their hands. But I do think they'll be able to figure that out with LeBron James running the point and everything like that. But yeah, 100%. That is the biggest thing to worry about with this super team of the Philadelphia 76ers. Portland, because what are they doing? Like, I have so many questions. I don't know, bro. Like, yeah, just what are they doing with the guards? Like, what is the plan with having 5 or 6 guards who are all real competent guards that are real NBA players that have real value and are guys that, to one level or another, we either have loved or have potential that we feel good in, right? Like, I feel good about Scoot Henderson's potential. I feel good, especially after the way he ended last year. I feel good about a guy like Shaedon Sharpe. I think he's a good guard in this league. But then it's like, you got 2 legends in Jrue Holiday and Damian Lillard in front of him, and then a guy in John Morant who not too long ago was one of the best guards in the NBA. What are y'all doing? And these are all, like, for the most part, all ball dominant / point guards. You have 3 or 4 of those guys that I just named are most of the time considered to be point guards, and obviously Jrue and Scoot can play a little bit more of the 2, but still, what are we doing? Literally, what are we doing? Phoenix Suns, what's a realistic ceiling? Yeah, I feel like a better question, low-key, for them will be, will they end up regretting the Miles Bridges trade, at least for this one season? Because I think they will. I think losing the depth, and I don't know, I feel like Miles Bridges isn't really that good. I feel like he's not going to provide a whole bunch of things for him, right? Like, I don't think he's trash or anything like that, but, like, he just doesn't stand out to me. And for the amount that they gave up for him, right, I think they gave up Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, and a pick or something like that. It was a good amount that they gave up to get oh, yeah, here we go. Trading for Bridges adds another 20-point per game score to the lineup for sure. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like 20 points per game isn't 20 points per game everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's about how you get your 20. It's about how does that 20 fit into the system. It's about how impactful does that 20 feel and everything like that, right? Because I would much rather have Grayson Allen's 3 or 4 threes a game that are super timely than maybe, some nights of having Miles Bridges 20 piece. Don't get me wrong. Sacramento Kings, is this the worst ever? Bro, when I was doing my rankings things, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty confident this will be the worst defense in the NBA, especially if LaVine or DeRozan or Sabonis get bought out or traded or whatever the heck happens there. But ever is crazy. There have been some bad all-time bad NBA teams. Ever is insane. But yeah, no, this will be a tough one. Rookie Darius Acuff is a tremendous offensive talent, but yeah, is not a good defender at all. You got Zach LaVine, who's not a good defender at all. You got Domantas Sabonis, who's not a good defender at all. And then you coming off the bench, you've got like a Malik Monk, who's not a great defender. Yeah, it'll be tough. It'll definitely be tough. Worst of all time is crazy. San Antonio Spurs, will Dylan Harper start over De'Aaron Fox? Yeah, or I think the biggest question is, where does De'Aaron Fox fit? Because will De'Aaron Fox have a problem with being a $60 million man that's not starting, right? And then if he does, how much do you care about that? How much does that kind of infiltrate into the locker room? But then another thing for me is, like, how long can you realistically wait before you start Dylan Harper, before that starts to cause problems in the locker room? Because if I'm Dylan Harper, I want to start. All indications are that he wants to start. And based on what I saw in the NBA Finals and in the NBA playoffs, especially against OKC and in New York last year, he deserves to start. So yeah, when will Dylan Harper start over De'Aaron Fox? But I think a bigger thing is just like more about how De'Aaron Fox fits with this team overall, and will De'Aaron Fox get traded? Because yeah, I mean, his place right now with this Spurs team, and I was a guy that really wanted him to go to the Spurs, and they drafted Dylan Harper, and he's been amazing. So obviously that changed things, but yeah, his spot on this Spurs team feels like it's very up in the air right now, and it's just, yeah. Toronto Raptors, can Kawhi Leonard still be a number 1 option on a title team? After the last couple of days since this article's come out, I would argue the biggest question for the Raptors should be, is Kawhi Leonard trade going through? But assuming the Kawhi Leonard trade is going through, yeah, this is definitely the biggest question, right? This is an old Kawhi, and you could say, I just was talking about the Raptors in the barbershop today, and my homies and my barber was talking about something, you living in nostalgia, and I was like, you could be right. You very well could be right. 2019 was a long time ago, man, and Kawhi Leonard's, 6-7 years older now than he was then? 5 or 6? Yeah, 6 or 7 years older now than he was then. So it's definitely not the same thing, and he's always been a guy that's been injury prone. But dude, the way he was playing last year, for the second half of the season, was playing like an MVP candidate. So if he can do that for half the season, I can guarantee you, I'll be very happy. I'll put it to you like that. Coming down to the end, is Ace Bailey headed towards a bench role? I think he absolutely is, because who are you going to start him over, right? You're not going to start him as a point guard. You're not going to start him over Lauri Markkanen. You're not going to start him over Jaren Jackson Jr. So what are you going to do? Start Jaren at the 5, start Lauri at the 4, and then you're going to start Darren Peterson, Ace Bailey, and Keontae George? That sounds like the worst defensive lineup ever. You know what I mean? Like yeah. I think he's absolutely headed towards a bench role, and I think that unless trades happen, he kind of has to be, because no way you're about to start Jaren at the 5 in order to start Ace Bailey, Darren Peterson, and Lauri Markkanen all in the same core, right? No way. No way that's what y'all are about to do. Because if it is, somebody in there needs to have a historically like career great rebounding season, or else y'all are not going to rebound the ball more than 30 times a game, more than 25 times a game. Genuinely. Washington Wizards, does Anthony Davis get an extension? Yeah, I think this is probably the biggest question for them. Is this last? Wow, this is last. Does Anthony Davis get an extension? Yeah, I think this is probably the biggest question for them. We really don't know if Anthony Davis wants to play there. It kind of seems up in the air about whether or not Anthony Davis wants to play there, right? And then if he is going to get an extension, how much money is that going to be? Because we know he's asking for he's eligible for a 4-year, $275 million contract extension, and he's already making a boatload of money, $60 million next season. Yeah, I mean, they handed out the extension to Trae Young, as they put here. But yeah, I definitely don't think going ahead and giving Anthony Davis a 4-year, $75 million extension will be a good idea for the Wizards in any way, shape, or form. Listen, man, I love you. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for watching as always, man. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Let me know what type of videos, type of content y'all want to see going forward. I do have a video coming out soon that is going to be breakout players, and then I have one that is going to be like bold predictions or bold takes heading into the season. So just look out for those over the next coming days. All right, I love you. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for watching as always. Please do not forget to keep God first no matter what. All right, Jesus loves you, and so do I. Peace out.